Okay. Rabbi David Mivasair, thanks very much for joining me for a few minutes this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
David, first of all, I want to congratulate you and your colleagues in Hamilton for what seems to have been a hard-earned victory, where the theater originally said they would show Israelism, then they changed their mind and said they wouldn't show it, subsequent to a representation from individuals and members of the Jewish community. And then you made representation back and convinced the board that they should change their mind and show it again. So that showed some determination and organization on your part. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. You're right about
it. Did go ahead. Is that right? The showing went ahead. Did you have a good crowd? Was there any discussion? Sometimes I know they have some discussion.
Oh, it was completely sold out. We had a waiting list of dozens. There's people like out in the street trying to get in.
Come on.
And we hope to book it again. And that's been the experience with this. No. The film Israelism is selling out theaters wherever it plays. And lately, the director's been offering online viewing, and they have a certain capacity, like 2,500, and it just sells out almost immediately. So it's a film it's really having an impact. It's a real eye-opener. It's very well made. It tells a story that I completely resonate with. In a way, it's my own story of going from being a young Jewish person, having started
being enthusiastic about Israel and then changing your mind.
So I just more than that, much more than that. When you say being enthusiastic, it's really being taught and being inculcated and being, I can say, indoctrinated with more than enthusiasm, but just a sense of identification with Israel, sense of belonging to Israel, even like I'm part of Israel, I'm just not there yet, you know, and complete loyalty, being like excusing what Israel does. Yeah. So that is like an environment that people live in and grow up in, and it takes a lot to work your way through that and get out of it. And I would just simply say, so the film is a lot about the entire effort that's made to persuade young Jewish people that that is the way they need to be.
Interesting.
And then how some people have been able to overcome that really indoctrination. That's what the film is. And you were saying, what happened? Seriously, I booked the theater in August, and the date that I got in the theater was December 6th, which happens to be a Wednesday. On, what was it? On Monday night, the theater informed us that they had been contacted by the Hamilton Jewish Federation, and they hadn't understood how harmful this film would be, that there are claims that it's anti-Semitic, and if they showed it, it would be spreading hate in Hamilton. So they had to cancel it. Although, to be fair, they said they would postpone it until a time that was less full of tension. When things calmed down, then we can show it. And to tell you the truth, you attributed to us a lot more than what we did. All we did was actually, we organized a protest demonstration the very next day, and we contacted the media, and it turned into a media story. This is a community theater that's established to be a venue for presenting, exchanging ideas, and people interacting. That's what the theater's for. And they canceled it. They never canceled anything before. So that was a media story. So one of the things we did is we got it into the media. Another thing I would say we did is we were very thoughtful and respectable in the language that we use. We never blamed the theater for anything. We weren't against the theater, you know. And then what really tipped the balance is we had already sold over 200 tickets. This was a week before the film was supposed to show. We had sold over 200 tickets. A typical film at this theater probably sells 20 or 30. I know I've gone there and
right.
the place is mostly empty. So we sold 200 tickets before the show was going on. So the theater itself sent an email to every person who had bought a ticket and regretfully told them that they would refund the money. So they heard from a lot of those people. And because of the mainstream media and our own social media, they also heard from people literally from coast to coast. I mean, I know Naomi Klein wrote to them. A friend of mine in Portugal wrote to them. I didn't even know that. And they got contacted by people all across Canada talking about censorship. And to their great credit, the volunteer community members of the board of this community theater revisited their decision and then told us that they had, and they apologized for what they did, and they recognized that they had only heard from one particular point of view, and when they investigated it, there was no harm would come to anyone. It was an important discussion.
Were they responding?
And I thanked them.
David,
I thanked them. I even wrote a statement.
Were they responding to the business pressure of losing business, or were they responding to the argument? Or how can you sort that? Did you think it, to a certain extent you convinced them that this was quite a reasonable proposition?
I think there's a dynamic where there's a presumption that the Jewish Federation carries a lot of weight and you don't want to upset them, right? I know that, for example, when an institution that relies on donations is contacted by someone like CIJA or someone associated with CIJA, and they just say, the donors are likely to be upset if this film goes ahead. That carries a lot of weight.
Sure.
And that doesn't even need to be said.
Now that's
David,
you just that's the muscle part.
Two possible options. One,
that's the muscle part. But what
it
about
is muscle, and sometimes that muscle isn't.
But I'm wondering about the ideas. Do you think that the board members individually now think that maybe it wasn't the right thing to do, quite apart from the money side of it?
Oh, I'm sure they think that. I'm sure I think at first they thought if this film shows, it will spread hate in Hamilton. It's an anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic film. Even though, of course, it's made completely by Jews. The entire production team is Jews. 2 of the 5 people in the production team are actually IDF veterans. All the Jews on the production team have lived in Israel for a period of their lives, as I have. It's made about Jews. It's all interviews with Jewish people talking about their life experiences. And the intended audience is Jews.
Right.
But the Hamilton Jewish Federation doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Right? What they say is this is an anti-Semitic film. It's full of lies about Israel. Of course, that's wrong. But the nice, kind, community-interested volunteers that are on the board of our community theater, they don't know that. Yeah. They just hear this very respectable organization making a claim. And they are persuaded by the claim. That's what you're asking.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what they said in their letter reversing their decision was they looked into it more and they realized that those arguments weren't true. So I think they were not particularly influenced by what you might call a business proposition or loss of money. I think they were influenced by, at first, false principles being held up. And then they saw enough people disagreed with that they re-examined it. And I think they had really good principles around openness and welcoming different community groups. And they had the confidence and the strength themselves to reverse their their decision. I thoroughly appreciate that. Not so much because we won, but to be able to re-examine your own thinking
Right.
and be willing to change a decision that you made. I think that is like the basis of progress in human life. We have to be able to do that, and they did.
Well, David, I think this is very interesting what you've done. I think you've obviously talked to people who didn't know very much, who assumed, as you said, that the Jewish Federation was speaking the truth or the complete truth, and you've challenged them. So clearly, you've knocked them down a peg in the eyes of certain members of the Hamilton community. So, congratulations to you, and thank you very much for sharing your experience with us today.
Well, you know, some of the things that you may be able to learn from this one is like, actually, don't give up, don't give in. Another thing I feel like we did very well is we're just completely respectful and appreciative.
Mm.
And we also had wide support. We didn't do this on our own at all. And just on a pragmatic level, we went to the media right away, and we also used our own social media, and that really picked up and kind of
Right.
snowballed.
Right.
And yep, those are some of the things that maybe we can learn from this one experience.
Well, thank you so much again for sharing your experience with us, and I hope there are many others in the
Yeah.
future.